Big Brother, mainstream media, government cover-ups. You want answers? Well, so does he. He's Alex Jones on the GCN Radio Network. And now, live from Austin, Texas, Alex Jones.
I apologize to George Butler, who I invited in, that he's had to sit there for 10 minutes while I'm ranting and freaking out. But, George, I mean, does this get you mad?
Yes, it does. It gets me damn mad. I mean, I'm sorry to use that word, you know, because usually I refrain from that kind of language. But, gosh, I have to use pretty strong language because, you know, you've trailblazed on many of these issues, and your energy is what's carrying this fight forward. It really is.
Well, it's all I can think about now. I can't do anything but this now. It's just all I think about because I know we're coming down to the wire.
It's because you seek the truth, Alex. You really do, and your worldview is excellent in that area. It really is. It's a good one. It's right on.
Well, George, I'm probably going to have you sit in the near future. I got Burmis later this week sitting in because I am working on some projects and be out of town some. And you're a great talk show host in your own right with a weekend show here on the network. But before I go any further. I know you don't like talking about yourself, George, but I mean, you've done a lot of cool stuff, fighting the commies in Germany, and then you were in listening stations with the NSA and in Libya, and interesting background. And then your research is in a lot of the same areas, and the great guests you get on, like the Tibetan folks. And well, I mean, you just have a great show. And so I'm honored to, have you as a friend. Where it's great to have you here in Austin. You and Bob Dacey and Tex Mars and so many other great folks that live in Central Texas, like Robert Galen Ross. But I want to really introduce you to my audience who may not know who you are and your website. Spend a few minutes talking about yourself. Then we're going to get into some of the news items and take some phone calls.
Well, we broadcast on Genesis Communication Network. We have a show called The Secret Truth at thesecrettruth.com, along with co-host Charlotte Littlefield Brown. And as far as my background goes, I'm a lifetime citizen of Austin, was in the ASA, Army Security Agency in Europe for 3 years, spent my last year in Berlin, West Berlin, and saw a lot of very ugly things happen there. I was 22 years old when I got out of the ASA, so I was pretty well educated in a certain narrow area of communication security and intelligence. And we saw a lot of tyranny there, and this is probably what's motivated me to continue this fight and to try to reveal the truth about this big mind war system that we're all susceptible to.
Mind war. That's what it is. That's what the Germans called it. Yeah. My parents just got back from southern Germany visiting some family that lives over there in the military. And they brought me that famous photo I'd seen before of right when they'd put up the barbed wire a few months after, and a German family got through, but the toddler got caught in the barbed wire, and the East German soldier opens the barbed wire and picks him up and lets him through. Have you ever seen that famous photo?
Yes, I have.
Oh, man, they gave me a big one. I got it hanging in my office wall now, and in fact, I think I'm going to hang it in here so people can think about it. They took him, tortured him, killed him, he disappeared. But the fact is, people have got that choice to ask themselves now. I mean, they would just machine gun you. Tell folks about that wall.
That wall was something else. There was a lookout point at Bernauer Strasse when I was there in 1965, and on one side of the street were buildings that had been cemented up, both the doorways and windows, and across the top of the roofs was barbed wire, and that actually was the wall. The front of these buildings on one side of the street was the actual wall, which they tore down later to put in a stronger, more impenetrable type of structure, which they designed later, many years later. But at that time, it was a very, very hideous-looking wall. It was the buildings that had been cemented up across the street. And we would go downtown at the Kudamm, the Kurfürstendamm in West Berlin for drinking and celebrate, going out on the night, the nightclubs and so forth. And you could hear at night machine gun fire from that close. It was pretty close to the wall the downtown area was. And you could hear machine gun fire and see trip flares go off at night.
As they were shooting people.
They were shooting people trying to get out to freedom. And this tyranny is something else.
And now they're turning America into one giant wall, and in Ireland, it's the same everywhere.
Yes, it's a scientific dictatorship. I think there were a couple of Collins brothers that wrote a book back a few years ago, and I think you've interviewed them, and they call it a scientific dictatorship, and they have really done this in very depth, and their expertise about how to control people through ideas and systems of thought is hideous.
And now in Canada, if they catch you without a fare, the police confirmed today the punishment is being tasered for the poor people that don't have money. Because it's like $7 to use the subway. When you're caught sneaking on it without paying, your punishment now is to be tasered.
Gosh.
I mean, see how they're just announcing more and more?
When I was in London in 2006, it was like a maze, running through a maze through the underground and so forth, and they had everything thought out where you would get clipped going in and get clipped coming out. They had it all down to money, and they were milking everyone for as much as they could in that city, much less the country. They had it scientifically set up over there. And what I saw that really impressed me was sitting there with a group of ladies at Buckingham Palace there getting ready for the tour, is that the riches that they were putting on display so excited the women, especially the women because of all those gowns and all those different awards given to the Queen, that what it does is appeals to the worst things in us.
Worshipping baubles.
Yes.
That stuff means nothing to me.
Yes, exactly.
I want to go camp up on the side of a mountain and see the stars. That's diamonds.
We can only have one God before us, or we can only worship one thing, either God or mammon, and we've gotten into a big, gigantic, worldwide mammon worship system of wealth.
I hate mammon. I don't even like the things I've got. They're a hassle.
Yeah, you know, they Wall Street a number of years ago came out with an investment kit for children. So they want to recruit people into that usury money-making system from a young age, 10 or 12 years old. I think that this particular kit was designed for. So get them into the investment deal, collect interest, get that usury going, and so forth. And so it's a mind system that's actually has been built around a money system of usury, taking and paying.
It's just amazing. How much has America changed, since you were back in the military back in the 50s, 60s?
When I was here growing up in South Austin, that's where I grew up and went to school here. It was a much more moral society. Drug use was frowned on by the peers. Anyone that was a drug user was a really scum, just a low life, and that's the way we looked at them. Coming into the beginnings of the Vietnam War and so forth, there was a liberalization,
which we now know is the CIA. Which they packaged as counterculture. Stay there, George Butler.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody, we got a whole other hour, the first official fourth hour here on the Genesis Network, and I promise we'll get to some of your calls in the next hour for George Butler. He's got a whole host of things he'll be talking about with us today, and he'll be giving out his website as well. Stay with me. George Butler is my guest for the next hour and 5 minutes. Fourth hour about to start on the GCN Radio Network. You can listen on the network streams or go over to Infowars.com to our streams. If you're a PrisonPlanet.tv member, you get them in 64 kilobit audio. If not, you can get it in 32-bit at Infowars.com. The network offers it in 16. You can listen over there if you'd like to listen in a lower bit rate. And if you're a PrisonPlanet.tv member, again, you can see the video cameras, the document cams, everything we've got. George Butler, what do you want to get into first in the time we've got here?
Well, when you were talking about the one world, the New World Order and all that, a name seemed to pop up in my head, and that name would be Kurt Lewin, Lewin. And what he was a German-born psychologist and sociologist that founded an idea of a force field theory, and he actually was pioneering in this in the mid 1940s. 1947 actually is when he died. But he came through England and did some work with the Tavistock Institute, and then came over to America. He got into group dynamics and things like that, but also this field theory is all important for us to begin to try to understand what we're caught up in. We're surrounded by electromagnetic radiation and streams of light, you could say, are ideas, and they become implanted in us. They're streamed to us.
Now this is what the elite actually believe.
Yes, they do this.
It's the group consciousness, and they've done tests where they'll have monkeys 10 miles away with another group of monkeys, and when they teach the other monkeys how to do something, suddenly the others learn.
Yes, that's called quantum entanglement. In fact, that's an idea or a dynamic that where you have instantaneous communication between those two.
Yes, it's the 100 monkey. Same thing of like you're in the woods and you know somebody's watching you, and you go over the hill and there they are.
Yes,
it's the sixth sense. But this is what they believe. Government documents. Even if you don't believe it, listeners, they believe it. Just like the crazy rulers of the world. Jon Ronson's new TV show, has all these top generals, the head of Fort Bragg, where they believe they had troops killing goats with their minds.
Yes, much of this is in the head. The ideas are used and planted and streamed into us and then manipulated from media sources and things like that. It's a great mind wash, mind game.
Well, let's get into
battle.
The authoritarian personality, too. Go ahead. You got the floor.
Okay.
Go.
The authoritarian personality type, the Frankfurt School was a school founded by neo-Marxists in Frankfurt, Germany in the 30s. And there were some of the greatest minds at the time. And in their studies and so forth, one of the ideas they came up with was what they call the authoritarian personality type. And they used this, and they from that was parlayed what they call the F factor. And the F factor had to do with fascism. And that's what makes it interesting in a way, because these people are backed in a way by the very fascists that are running the world themselves. So they're running both sides.
Yeah, communism and fascism.
Yes.
It's black uniforms, secret arrest, FEMA camps. They only give us a false choice of fascism or communism.